I'm Carla Reeves, and this is Differently, the Lifepreneur podcast. I'm a hyperachiever turned lifepreneur, and after a decade of coaching ambitious leaders, I'm convinced we are far closer than we realize to what we deeply desire, and it's a willingness to do differently that can change everything. This podcast is for the everyday leader ambitious for a rich, out-of-the-box life. This is your weekly nudge and reminder to take a risk to build a life that is uniquely bold, authentic, and in alignment with your deepest values. Hey, Differently listeners, we are celebrating 100 episodes today. What? I could not have done this without you. Knowing that each of you are out there tuning in week after week is what inspires me to come back again and again. I started this podcast almost 2 years ago, and now we are at 100 episodes. I don't know if I have shared this story before, but I think it was late 2019, I was talking with a client and she suggested me having a podcast. And I will tell you that in the moment of that conversation, I was like, oh yeah, that's an interesting idea. That's a great idea. And inside I was freaking out and thinking, no way. There's no way I could do that. That's way too visible. That's way too scary. I can't do that. And over time, after she planted that seed, that no way turned into what if? And the what if grew to what if I took a class to actually learn how to podcast? I created that next step, which allowed me to kind of leap into the world of podcasting. Even as I was well underway in that podcasting class, I remember first thinking that Quentin and I could maybe do a podcast together because that felt way more comfortable and I wouldn't have to do it all on my own. Quentin eventually talked me into the idea that it really needed to be my podcast and that he could come on and be a guest. Here we are. From no way to 100 episodes. And I just want to thank you for celebrating with me. And as we do that, I'm celebrating you because if it weren't for you, I would not have been able to go live every week. This is exciting for me and for you because this is the power of simple, small steps aligned to a goal over time. Creates change, possibility, and growth over time. And this is such a good reminder of that. So please know that without a shadow of a doubt, that when this idea was given to me, this was not in my realm of possibility at all. I had never even considered the idea that I could have a podcast. One of my greatest fears in doing this, aside from what if no one listens, what if it's a complete bomb, what if I make a fool of myself? For me, the hardest part is sometimes to share my work with the people that are closest to me, my family, my siblings, because I'm not even sure they understand what I do. They turned out to be some of my biggest supporters, and I will never forget my niece posted about the podcast on her Instagram right after I launched and shared how proud she was of me. I'm reminding myself and you that we can do scary things. Doing scary things is often where we grow and discover the greatest treasures. This podcast has become one of my very favorite parts of my business. It has happened with the least amount of stress, so much joy and ease, and it's a creative outlet that just lights me up. It's Thanksgiving Day if you are listening real time. I was thinking about how perfect this was because I want to thank you. Yes, you, for listening, for supporting me in this adventure, whether you realize it or not, for your feedback, for your emails, for those texts, for the stories I hear of you listening. Those things have all been a gentle nudge over and over again to keep going. I also want to thank Quentin, my husband, for being my rock because he has been producing this podcast from the get-go. He is my sounding board and consultant. He has traveled this entire journey, supported, made this happen each and every week. And when I have doubts or fear, uncertainty, He catches me, reminds me of the work I'm here to do, and points me back onto my path. And I am deeply grateful for all of you. I have a small token of my appreciation that I would love to mail to you. So if you have been listening and enjoying the podcast, I want you to connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram. Send me a message and send me your mailing address. I have a small gift and I think you will like it. I am also planning the Differently podcast for 2023. I have some exciting things to share with you. And if you have questions you'd like answered, topics or ideas you'd like to see in future episodes, please pop that into the note that you send me with your mailing address. Happy Thanksgiving. This is one of my very favorite holidays. I guess it combines a lot of my favorite things: family, togetherness, quality time together, cooking and hanging out in the kitchen. Honestly, that's one of my very favorite parts. Sharing a meal, quality time together. Time just seems to slow down on Thanksgiving Day. No one's in a hurry. There's space and time to soak it all up and reflect on the good things in life. So, celebrating the podcast and you today. Thank you. We are 100 episodes in and lots more to go. In the spirit of Differently and Thanksgiving, what's one small thing you might do differently today? Remember, when you're willing to show up differently to the small moments of your life with your attitude or your actions, or maybe it's a lack of reaction or a different reaction, magic happens. Not some weird kind of magic, but a moment where something that wasn't possible suddenly becomes possible and changes everything. Happy Thanksgiving from my family to yours. Have a beautiful day, and I will see you next week. And remember to connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram at Carla S. Reeves. Send me your mailing address. I want to get that small gift in the mail to you very, very soon. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Differently. I hope it stirred your thinking, and I invite you to take one inspired action from something that stood out to you. If you want to hear more conversations like this, hit follow on your favorite podcast app. And if this episode could impact someone you know, please share it and pass it along. Remember, new episodes drop weekly. See you next week.